Kia ora, welcome to this video that I'm putting together for Confessions of a Paper Addict's National Scrapbooking Day, or days as the case is for this one, Scraplift Challenge. So here is the first layout I am scraplifting. It is a layout by Melissa Vining, and she was actually sitting at the other end of the table while I was putting this together. So I have got some photos of making some espresso filled Easter eggs, and I am using the Bunny Trail cut file by Confessions of a Paper Addict for this. So I've just got my white daisy cardstock on my sort of mat, and I realised that as part of this layout it's got a bit of a frame around it, so I'm going to trim off an inch around two of the sides before I start sort of this distressed background work. So I've pulled a few distress oxide colours here, and I am going to just sort of stamp them onto some packaging that I actually salvaged from something I got from Kmart for school, and spritzing it with a bit of water, smooshing it around. Then I'm just going to smoosh that onto the white daisy cardstock. So you can see that it's just a really rough, random look here, and I need a bit more. If I look at the layout by Melissa, it's sort of got that right across, sort of in a line across the centre. So I'm sort of imitating or emulating the design that she put together, but I'm changing the colours and all of the components that I am putting within it. So when you're scrap lifting, you're kind of lifting a layout or part of a layout that you relate to or want to try out or want to give it a go. It's a great way to sort of spark some creativity when you're feeling a bit done, and also just to try out some new ideas and new ways of doing things. So I'm now going to pull in some of the acrylic gloss sprays, and I'm just spraying this one on there, but then I'm going to use the white one here, and I'm just dotting bits onto it just to add to that the interest in that distressed background. So I've got that there, and I'm going to pop that aside to dry while I work on that sort of outer frame at the moment. Now, I'm not 100% committed to using that piece. You could just see me turning it over there, looking at the back, thinking about it. I think in a way I was reluctant to cut into my favourite paper from this Daisy Meadows collection, but I do end up going back to it. Although Melissa's layout had a nice pink border, she had used some of the prettier, softer colours with her distressing with her inking and things in the middle, and it didn't quite work with the blue that you can see here. So I've sort of gone for the blue tones because it tied in with my photos. However, I realise that I'm probably going to have to change the border because that one doesn't really work. Anyway, I think about that through while I take the cut file off my Cricut mat, and I'm leaving most of it or the other bits on there because there are some little face pieces and little details that I am going to want to add once I have backed each of these little rabbits. So Melissa had used a different cut file across the bottom. It was the love letters, I think it was. I'll link that down below anyway. And I chose this cut file because it was a line across the bottom, a line across, sort of like the rabbits are a line across. So I'm keeping that design, but completely changing what's going into this page. Now, this is my favourite paper from this collection, and as you can see, I do end up gutting it and putting that as my sort of border paper rather than the pink one I'd tried earlier. It's okay, I use the border paper from the other one for backing some cut files so it's not wasted. But here we go. So I've now got that blue, and you can see that that does look heaps better with the white daisy cardstock. So I am happy with that, but here you can see that I do pull out that border that I had pre-chosen, and I'm now going to choose some of the papers that will work behind each of these rabbits. So I'm using the same collection, it just keeps life simple, and I'm going to back each of these rabbits using some different papers from this collection, and the papers are double-sided, so I am able to use sort of both sides of it. So I'm sort of wanting, as I think about this, to mix up dark and light papers sort of visualising what that will look like across the page once it's all stuck down. So there is a couple of papers, and you can see I'm just lining them up the top there so that I remember which ones I'd chosen for each of the rabbits. And I was going to cut this one across, and then I realised the eggs would look a little bit funny if they were across rather than vertical. So just choosing my final paper here, and I'm going to use the same as in the border, but I'm making sure that it's not going to be touching the border. It's sort of slightly in the middle from it, and not completely central, otherwise it'd be a little bit too symmetrical. So I'm going to attach each of these, and then I'm going to be fussy cutting around each of the rabbits. And I've done that off camera, so you didn't have to watch that process. And I'm quite happy with how these look on that nice distressed, or that nice inked up background. So I'm just attaching each of the photos to some white daisy cardstock, and it's the cardstock that was used to cut the rabbits from. And I am just going to trim around those to give the photos a little bit of a white border before I back them on some of the Daisy Meadows patterned paper. So just going to trim that a little bit again to make sure it's evenly around, and I sort of keep playing around with this photo placement a little bit, like which one's tucked behind which, and because I've got to be aware of the ears not covering up the story that's in the photographs. And there's again the layout from Melissa up the top there that I am scrap lifting from the Confessions of a Paper Addict photo gallery. So pulling out now the little pieces that go inside. So there were pieces that went inside the ears as well. And I'm just using, I did use the liquid glass to attach those. But I decide I want to use a little bit more gold splatter in the background before I stick everything down. So I've just used a shimmer brush from Close to My Heart. So I think there's the gold there and the toffee, and splattering them on, as well as I think I pulled out some sapphire. So it just adds a little bit more interest into the backgrounds there. And matting these photos on some patterned paper and sticking these down now that the mat is dry. And I decided to, because you've sort of got the two pieces there, I can see what's happening with the espresso machine pouring into that photo on the left. And now I'm just sort of roughing up the edges of that border to give it a little bit more texture. So going to be working out where to position these rabbits, and I'm going to use some foam tape to stick these down. I love this foam tape because I can tear it as I go. It doesn't have to be cut into nice little portions, and it works really well. So this is slightly thicker. There's two thicknesses that I often use, and this is the thicker one. So just some of the bits that will stick up, or that are sort of outlying, and then I'm going to peel all of that off. Because it's got the foam tape there, it's going to have a little bit of lift, which means I can still tuck things behind it as I go. So there's a few stickers that I end up using from the Daisy Meadows collection sheet that I stick in behind parts of this cut file and parts of the picture and things like that. So using a bit of inspiration from Melissa's kind of designing and the way she does things too in her layout. I forgot to mention that I had stitched around the edge of that white daisy cardstock onto the background after doing some of that distressing work on it. So the title I'm going to use is simply Easter, and this is on the Daisy Meadows collection sheet from Close to My Heart. So I'm just attaching that down in a similar place to where Melissa had her title. So in some ways I'm using her page as kind of a sketch, or I'm using the design and the layout of what she's actually done as my inspiration for this page. So just pulling out the little pieces inside that sticker and getting that stuck down. Now I have a look at the sticker sheet again, thinking, okay, what else am I going to pull in here? And I kind of wanted something a little bit more than just Easter. I was thinking like Sweet Easter or something like that. But I end up pulling out this little sticker that does say sweet at the top, because I didn't want to cover up the gorgeous rabbit cut files and sort of put it above the Easter title. So anyway, I'm pulling out some of these cute sort of pastel eggs, and I am placing them at different points around the page, just tucking them in behind photos, behind the rabbit, the bunny cut file, and placing different pieces on here. So while I am happy with the way it looks as it stands, I do sort of want to bring in some of the other little pieces and tucking them in and around the page as I go. So you can see me finding some more little hearts and stickers and things like that I can add into this page. So clusters of 3, good design feature. And yeah, just having a look and thinking, what else do I need to add? What could I add? How can I make this better, or what do I want to do? So I do need some kind of journaling. I guess I'm old school in that my layouts do need a bit of a story behind them. The photo does kind of tell the story, but it doesn't tell all of the story. So I went through some of the Daisy Meadows Picture My Life cards, and I found this nice cute white with sort of some scribbly blue spots on them. And just you can see Melissa's layout out there and how it is similar in how it's laid out to what mine is. So I am now going to add my journaling to this little card, and I'm going to be tucking it down there. So I've added the journaling, and I'm going to do an outline around it just to separate it off a little bit, because it is very similar colours and tones to the rest of the page. So Melissa's layout has just popped up there, and you can see the connections between the design and the way I have put this together. I do decide just to pull out another little flower to tuck up there. But thank you to those who share their layouts in the gallery using the Confessions of a Paper Addict cut files. They're a great inspiration for lots of us to look into and use parts of, and to see these cut files being used. Thanks for watching, and watch out for the next couple of Scraplift videos.